What is up, you guys? Wowee. That was a tough one to take for the University of Hawaii men's basketball team at LionTree Arena in what was their last road trip there as a member of the Big West Conference, because both UH and UC San Diego will be moving to different conferences for 2026-27, because it is confirmed that UC San Diego will be moving to the West Coast Conference while we're moving to the Mountain West. And for UC San Diego, this is kind of like a little bit of a, like, oh, we won it once, see you bye. You know, it's kind of that's kind of what it looks like to me. But then again, you can't really blame them if they're looking for a more challenging conference, because the Big West is notoriously a one-bid league. And, of course, UH has been in the Big West since 2012, and we've won it in 2016. Unfortunately, we haven't been to the dance since then. But unfortunately, this final road trip to UC San Diego's LionTree Arena turned out to be a disappointing one. UH will lose that one 83-73, but they were done in by a run that overlapped the first half and the second half. And I'm going to explain that in a little bit. But first off, guys, remember, subscribe if you think that I'm worth listening to, or if you just want to see some more of my games. I'm probably going to have one up sometime next week, and hopefully one more up before this week is over. But with that being said, let's get into this. So here's my banner. UH turned back by UC San Diego. Bo's done in by 17-0 UCSD run. Now, this was a bit of a tough one to take, like I said, because UH came off of that 43-point win at UC Riverside. And I would imagine that losing by 10 to the defending Big West champs is a little bit hard to fathom if you're the coaching squad of the Rainbow Warriors, and even Aran Ganat himself, in a way. But still, up until that 17-0 run, UH had proved that they had UCSD's number. They proved they could run with them, and it was nothing like last year where it turned out to be a complete blowout on UC San Diego's part, and we ended up losing by a big bunch. So, obviously, all wasn't lost there, but it was disappointing to see UH not go on a significant run. But obviously, it is basketball, and it goes every which way every time. But still, that was a bit of a disappointing game to take in. Hunter Erickson, who would normally lead this team, he didn't even make a shot from the field. And former Rainbow Warrior Tom Beattie, who's now on UC San Diego, he ended up with 12. He didn't lead the UCSD team, which I kind of didn't think would happen. And if it did, then I would have been really surprised. But at the same time, I don't think there was any friction at all between Tom Beattie and the University of Hawaii, because he did, or at least from what I hear anyway. Now, don't quote me on this. He did want to follow in the footsteps of Aniwaniwa Tate Jones, who transferred from UH Hilo to UC San Diego. And part of that, you can't blame Beattie for doing the same thing. But at the same time, he did become the first in-conference transfer out of UH, which was a little bit of a head-scratcher. But at the same time, you never know why everyone enters the transfer portal. There are a lot of people who do go in the portal, no matter how good your season turns out to be. But still, to be perfectly honest, I would kind of give that game a bit of a C+ or a B-. They were able to keep them in sight. It didn't turn into a blowout, but UH really got done in by that 17-0 run. And the guy who came up big for UH was Harry Rouhliadeff once again. He did an okay job. But a guy that I was really looking to do better at was probably Hunter Erickson. And Isaac Johnson had kind of like a bit of a quiet game. But unfortunately, UH didn't really get in a rhythm, or they couldn't find a rhythm, really. But you cannot say that they didn't try, because they sure as hell did. And to be frank, it wasn't anything like last year where we got completely blown out, like I said earlier. So that's one good takeaway. Another good takeaway that I see from this team is the fact that they were still able to hang with the defending champs of the Big West. To be able to compete with them up until that 17-0 run, what that tells me is that UH is going to have UC San Diego on the ropes possibly when they come here. I do expect UH to at least maybe go out as winners against UCSD one more time before they move to the West Coast Conference. And I do expect them to come out with a lot of fire. But then again, you never know what goes through their minds. I don't think it was because they were winning so much for 7 straight games in a row. I mean, obviously you want to go for 8. But usually when you get on a win streak like that, you kind of lose some of that fire. But I don't think that's what happened here. I think that UH really got done in by that 17-0 run. UH really tried, to say the least, but they just couldn't find a solid rhythm. And in fact, I don't really think they were given a fair opportunity on one side of the coin when you look at it this way. Because any guy on UH can light it up anytime, any place, anywhere. And it seemed like nobody really got that chance. The only one who really did was probably Rouhliadeff, because he led the team then. And another good takeaway is that Isaiah Kerr came off the bench for 13. So I'm looking for him to maybe be that 6th man off the bench for a little while, or perhaps join Gitas Namiksha in being that 6th man off the bench. But still, if Kerr comes back next season, and I highly suspect that he will, I look for him to have a start job for next season. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be easy, but I think that Isaiah Kerr has the talent to have a start job for next season. I mean, obviously, they're going to have Tanner Cuff coming back. But also, one thing to also note is that with Jalen Myers no longer active on the roster, this might have been a game where Jalen's talents and his assistance could very well have been used, or very well have been needed, really. Because Yassine Toomey sat out the entire road trip with a supposed ankle problem. Now, don't quote me on this, although I'm 99% sure that it's right. But you put Toomey and Jalen Myers out there, the next person who's on the same boat as me could very well make a case for this, but you put Toomey and Jalen Myers out there on the court, we could very well be talking about a closer game or a road sweep. It wouldn't have been easy, but I do think it would have been a lot more closer. And I say that because Jalen Myers was more or less being put in for some significant time. But Yassine Toomey really showed me something in the opener against UC Davis when he came up for 13. And had Yassine been out there, this may very well have been a closer game. Same could be said for someone like Jalen Myers, because he had the height. But the unfortunate part is Jalen Myers, his time at UH on the roster anyway, is officially over. And that's unfortunate for sure, because that was probably the one game where his services could very well have been used. So obviously UH has a full week to prepare for UC Irvine. They're currently leading the conference right now. And do I think that UH is going to win that one? I don't know. I might put them as 1-point underdogs. I do expect them to come out and prove that they got the pace with Irvine. But can they get it done? That's a different story. They're going to have to hope that Yassine Toomey heals up in time. He does have a full week to heal up. And I do think that we will see him out there. But I expect him to come off the bench. And I do expect some other guys like Isaac Finlinson and Isaiah Kerr to put in some more much-needed performances with guys not scoring as much as they'd like to, like Hunter Erickson. So, obviously, I am putting UH as 1-point underdogs, but if there's one thing I like to see, it's to be proven wrong. And I do think UH will do that. Besides, they didn't win by 43 over UC Riverside for nothing. And if they can come out with the same kind of intensity like they did against Riverside and do that on UC Irvine, that'll be a game to watch. But I fully expect UC Irvine to come out with just as much fight as UH. So we'll see what happens there. And that's where I'll leave it. It won't be easy, but UH will have to deal with guys like Jurian Dixon, who's their lead scorer on UC Irvine. And it probably would have been Miles Che had he chose to stay at UC Irvine, but instead he transferred to UNLV. And that's the one thing I don't like about the transfer portal. No matter how good your season turns out, no college is immune to them. Is immune to the portal anyway. So, that's where I'll leave it. So, anyway, guys, that's all for today. And remember, subscribe, and I'll see you all for the UC Irvine game, and hopefully that will be a win. So, thanks, guys. Subscribe. Go Bows.